Hi, my name's Jae Evans, and today I'll be interviewing a medical veteran from World War One, Alan Worsley Holmes, A Corps. Where were you born, and what occupations did you pursue? I was born on the 19th of June 1887 in the Highclere Hospital in Caboolture. Through my lifetime I went through two occupations, one, an Army Medical Officer, and two, a physician. The Army Medical Officer was a very challenging and stressful job, running around to get to the soldiers that were in need. All I had to do was practice medicine and how to restore health. The physician was a great job, as I worked in the Sydney hospital. What was your upbringing? During my upbringing, I went to Brisbane Grammar School, St Andrews College, and University of Sydney. At the Sydney University, my studying was very poor, as I had rowing and other sports. 1911 to 1912, I became a resident, and in 1913, I began a general practice at Manly. On the 3rd of June, I married a Sydney hospital nurse, Alan Rose. From there, we had a girl named Pam Glasson, and two boys named Brian Holmes and Peter Holmes. How many wars did you go to? I only went to one war, and that was World War One. During this war, I travelled to two different places though. I went to the 2nd General Hospital in France, where I helped 200 to 500 people over 4 months, and also went to the 4th Australian Field, where I helped those whose legs might have been exploded, or those who were on the verge of dying. What was your service during the war? During the war, I served as a captain of the Australian Medical Corps on the hospital ships. I was then sent off to the 2nd General Hospital in France. In May, I was transferred to the 4th Australian Field Ambulance, where I helped the severely wounded patients. I was also mentioned in the dispatches in December 1918 and awarded the French Medal of Epidemics in January 1919. I was also qualified for the RCP in London and returned to Australia in August. I was admitted FRCP in 1930 and remained in the Army Reserve until 1943. What was the terrain and landscapes you were in during the war? During the war, the terrain was very challenging because of the bombs and rain that would turn the cliff tops and faces to wet clay and sand. Every step I took running to those who were injured on the battlefield slipped and sunk into the sand and clay. It was almost impossible, and when I had to drag them through the sand and back down the cliffs, it was very scary, as I would be sliding down a cliff edge with a helpless soldier beside me. Were there any challenges due to the terrain? There were a lot of challenges during the war. Also, the terrain made it very hard for us to get to the resources on the beach. The high cliff edges and the sand was also a challenge, as it was hard for us to get these injured men down the cliffs without getting seen or shot. There was a point during the war where I had men piled together and had to run back down to the beach and get the medicine that they needed, and run back to those men up on the cliff edges, and by the time I got back to those men, there was no need to use the bandages or morphine, as they were dead. What rank were you? My rank was Major, so it's just below the lieutenants and above the captains. My role was to be the second in command, so I would attend to the drills, administration of the company, regiment, and an army. For me to become this such rank, I had to do 36 months time in service, 8 months time in grade. I had to graduate in the Primary Leadership Development course and possess a high school diploma, GED equivalence, or a college degree before I was pronounced rank Major. What was it like trying to help the injured during World War One? During the war, many of our patients were diagnosed with trench foot, trench fever, shell shock, gas, and severe injuries such as shredded body parts and much gorier things. These were very overwhelming, as there would be 200 to 400 soldiers coming in every week. At some points during World War I, we had no room to put these soldiers, which led them to be moved to a new suburb, city, or even country. There was also many times where we had nothing left to help these leftover soldiers, so we would be reusing dirty rags or bandages to help save these people's lives. How many awards were you presented in your lifetime? I was presented 3 major types of awards during World War I. My first award was the French Medal of Epidemics, because of my bravery during the time and the amount of people I saved. I also got the Commonwealth of Australia Gazette and the London Gazette, which is one of the official journals of record of the British government, and the most important among such official journals in the United Kingdom. Now, last question. What did you do after the war? After the war, I returned to Australia and practiced for 6 months as an assistant editor for the Medical Journal of Australia in 1920. 1 year later, in 1921, I was a consultant physician in Sydney. I was also a member for the New South Wales Council and soon to be the president. After all that, I took the job of being a physician for the Sydney Hospital. I helped pioneer blood transfusion techniques and was the hospital's first tutor in anaesthetics in 1920. Thank you for coming in and making this interview happen. I would also like to thank you for your service in the Army, and I hope to see you next time.